Welcome everybody. This week's edition of Bayou Outdoors 365 presented by Bayou Outdoor Super Center. This week's show, of course, as always, we got a lot of things planned for you, but I got a special one planned, and it doesn't have anything to do with hunting or fishing, but it has to do with the story about one man in one small East Texas town that wants to do his part to bring that town back to life. And he has a great little interesting hobby that actually some of you may have that hobby also, but it has to do with motorcycles. And the place that he just opened up is this place right here, Flying G Motorcycle Museum. And that's what we're going to do this week. We're going to check that out along with some other things as well. But I think you'll find this story very, very interesting. At least I did. And even if you don't like motorcycles, or you're into motorcycles, I should say, I think after you hear this story, you might want to make a little day trip over to that area, Logansport, and then right across of it, Joaquin, Texas. What I mean across, talk about across the Sabine River. So check it out. Let's go to that town now and see what Luke Garrett is doing in Joaquin, Texas. How did that love for motorcycles get started for you?
So motorcycles has always been a part of our life. My dad was a motorcycle dealer from 1976 to the mid-90s here in Joaquin, Texas, and I just grew up in a home that was, motorcycles were just part of what we did, so it was very normal.
What can people find if they step in through that front door? What will they see?
So when you come in here to the museum, I like to tell people that I'm pretty agnostic when it comes to motorcycles. I love anything that has two wheels and an engine. And so I have a lot of American-made motorcycles from the turn of the 20th century. The oldest bike we have in the collection here is a 1906 Indian. And then most of the stuff we have here is pre-World War II, but there are some newer motorcycles. And there's everything from American V-twins that we would all recognize to kind of obscure makes that were from Europe and different places around the world.
Dad also, though, just real fast, I mean, he was a motorcycle dealer, but he also raced them some too. I mean, he did a little bit of everything with it, didn't he?
He did. So starting back in the 80s, the early 80s and all through the 90s, he raced vintage motorcycles. In the early 90s, he had an opportunity to race these vintage Indian motorcycles by a gentleman, or for a gentleman named Bob Shingler out of Waxahachie, Texas. And so he has experience with all of these, but this one here, number 780, is really special, and he spent a lot of time on this, and it's a 1948 Indian Big Base Scout. It was a factory racer. The factory issued 50 of these motorcycles, and they needed to do that in order to qualify to be a factory class, a Class C racing. The first time I think he raced in Daytona in the early 80s, yeah. And he raced through the mid-90s. We're all about motorcycles at our home, and my first grandson was born a couple of years ago, Baker, and I had this motorcycle restored for him and a custom sidecar built, and I gave that to him on the day of his birth. And so it would be the beginning of his future collection. I hope at some point in time in the future, it's the centerpiece. And then the same thing, my second grandson, Andrew, we call him AJ. He was born 8 months ago, and so I had another motorcycle built and gave it to him on the day of his birth.
You yourself here, you're how old?
I'm 46.
Did you go to Joaquin High School?
I did.
Graduated when?
1996.
So 1996, you've lived here then your whole life?
I have, yes.
You could have gone elsewhere and done other things, but you're still here today. And it's almost in a way, you seem like somebody that has a passion and a goal that you want to see this town thrive again. Am I correct on that?
You're absolutely correct. So I was raised here, and Joaquin's very dear to me. I love the small town vibe. I love everything about our little community. And I had to go out of town some to work and make a living for myself and for my family, but we've always lived here and stayed here. We just think it's a great place we raised our children here, and now we have our grandchildren. We just love everything about our small town. And so when we had the opportunity to kind of reinvest in this town, that's exactly what we did.
Where were all these motorcycles before?
So I had them stored in multiple buildings around town or at our hangar out at the airport. So it is nice to kind of have at least the bulk of them in one place. But yeah, I had one or two inside the house. My wife's really pleased that those have been moved. So 90% of the motorcycles in here run, and I've ridden. This bike here is a 1928 Indian Chief. It has a later model 1948 engine in it, a 1940 model Indian Scout 640. So when this motorcycle was built, it was a military version of the Scout. This one behind us here, my dad bought this brand new in December of 1970. We recently had it restored. But you know, again, those are the things that mean something to us, much more than the value of what something cost or what we could sell it for.
This is one that 100 years old?
It is. So this is a very special motorcycle for a number of reasons. It was built in the United States. It was built in Syracuse, New York, and they produced these from 1921 to 1927. This one's a 1924 model. But what makes it really special is it was sold brand new in Vicksburg, Mississippi in 1924, and it stayed in the same family for 100 years. I bought it earlier this year. You know, motorcycles were born from bicycles, right. People bolting internal combustion engines on bicycles. So the earliest motorcycles very much resemble bicycles, and they have a lot of attributes that are the same way. So this one still has the pedals on it like a bicycle would have. So it's a 1906 Indian, and this one, more than any other bike in here, you can really see the bicycle heritage. So the keystone frame, very much like a bicycle. One thing that I found interesting as I started collecting motorcycles was that in 1906 there were less than 200 miles of paved road in the United States. There were no gas stations. And so you didn't have any standards yet, like this is the gas cap. And you know, just think today you could never get a nozzle in that. And so they just had a funnel and they bought gas in a can and filled up their fuel tank. So you've heard of a carbide lamp?
Okay, yeah.
Like a coal miner's carbide lamp. And so the way those work is this is what's known as an acetylene generator, this piece here. And what you do is you take calcium carbonate, which is a mineral, like a rock, and it's broken into small pieces, and you put that at the bottom. And the top has water. And then right here is a needle valve, and you open this needle valve up and the water drips down onto the calcium carbonate, and a chemical reaction takes place. And what is produced from the chemical reaction, just like vinegar and baking soda, but in this case it produces gas, a flammable gas, acetylene. And the acetylene goes through these tubes right up here, and about 30 seconds after you get your water dripping, you can open this up and light your headlight with a match.
You also have up here, because you've told me before, it's a motorcycle but art museum, right? I mean, it has art that represents motorcycles.
It is.
And
so
why'd you want to do that?
Yeah, so we do. We try to have a focus on art. My mother is a retired art teacher, and so just like motorcycles were part of our home and very important to us, art was part of our home and very important to us. So wanted to take an opportunity through this whole project to honor my parents, and so we made art a part of it. And so here in the museum we have some I think great art and sculptures by some well-known artists and sculptors. We're just real thankful for the art that we have here.
So you have pictures on the wall, I see. It looks like other things that are more of, as far as artists doing paint or prints or something.
Yep.
And even to the point you have, I don't know what you call that art there, but I know it was done by somebody local, right?
It was a gentleman out of Shreveport, Louisiana, Steve Culp. And he's a master craftsman and artist and fantastic gentleman. And we're very fortunate to have some of his work in the museum for people to enjoy.